Okay, so during um me recording, if you, by the way, if you hear anything, it's people outside lighting fireworks. They've been doing this for like the past month and a half, and I'm getting sick of it. But anyway, during the time that I was recording History of Power Rangers with my friends, a lot of very unsettling, disturbing evidence has come to light about just the gaming community, Smash community, just communities in general, uh, concerning people going to tournaments and different events and VGC type of stuff, and people getting vulnerable to being sexually assaulted and whatnot. Um, but that's partially not why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because Smash Bros. Was in my head while all of this was going on. I was playing Smash Bros. With my friends, and while I was going home today, a certain thing came to light. One of MadPat's game theory videos about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate ending explained World of Light true ending. Now, this came 2 years ago. This was posted 2 years ago in December. It has 5 million views. And YouTube, I'm going to say this right now, I don't care if you copyright it. I don't care, because you've done that with the past few others that I've did with Game Theory. I don't care. I do not care. So, yeah. I want to talk about this is because, well, react to this because this is a lot to do with how the fans feel about Smash, about how the game developers feel about Smash, just about how everybody feels about Smash, and why this ending is so meaningful, you know? So, without further ado, let's have a look at this.
Warning. This video fully spoils Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Story Mode. So if you want to experience it for yourself blind, play through it before watching this episode. But remember that this video exists, because I guarantee once you beat it, you will need an explanation for what the heck you just saw. Let's just say it's not immediately obvious what's going on, for reasons that'll probably become clear later on in this episode. So when you're ready to handle a heaping dose of symbolism, come on back here and watch the episode. In the meantime though, consider yourself warned. Oh, and a huge special thank you to my best YouTube bro, Gerard the Completionist, who helped me
we gotta skip through this.
versus matches I lonely for games, but then I got to the end, and then I played it. And direct where we watched as every character got decimated by a massive beam of light. How could I not be excited to see where the story was headed? And then I played it, and it started great, huge and sprawling and awesome to see so many Easter eggs from so many of my favorite games, but then I got to the end and was confused and a little bit disappointed, if I'm being honest. The ending barely features any of the characters. Instead, it's all fixated on this battle between two giant creatures in the sky, the angelic Galeem and the hentai eyeball monster Darkon, or Dars in his original translation, with the actual fighters just kinda there, stuck in the middle, an afterthought. This one cutscene even emphasizes it. They both look down and they're like, oh yeah, you guys are here too, I guess. Might as well kill you too. The adventure mode does give us a series first in that there's multiple endings, but none feel particularly satisfying. If you defeat Darkon, it allows Galeem's light to take over the universe, which is apparently a bad thing. Option 2, you defeat Galeem and darkness overtakes everything, with Mario dying in the process. Bad ending again. Aha, but there is a third option. If you defeat both at the same time, you get yourself the true ending, which is just a lot of prolonged footage of the characters' spirits flying off into the sky. Where's my epic shot of all the characters standing on a cliffside looking off into the distance, triumphant while soaring operatic music plays? None of the three endings make a lot of immediate sense. sense, and they definitely don't feel victorious in any way. They're just a bit somber, sad even. But again, this is a game with thousands of hours poured into it by a man who has proven time and again how deeply he cares for this series. Clearly, a lot of thought was put into this ending, and so I owed it to him to not immediately dismiss what I just saw as bad. So after spending some time researching and seriously thinking about what I just saw, I'm pretty confident I have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate all solved. Sure, this may just be a crossover brawler, but there's a lot more to unpack here than meets the dark on. Nearly 4 years ago, I put together a theory that looked into unraveling the lore of Super Smash Bros. Games, and today looks like it might just be the day that that story comes to its bittersweet ending. To understand Smash Ultimate, you have to first understand where the series is coming from. If you haven't seen my original video yet, I would definitely recommend watching it because that 15-minute video can explain the series up to this point way better than the 2-minute summary I'm about to give. Fair warning though, I inserted even more cringeworthy humor then than I do now. My Pichu will smash ball you up, which is saying a lot. Anyway, in my interpretation, the games tell the story of Smash creator Masahiro Sakurai growing up and his ever-evolving relationship with this franchise and these video game characters. The original Super Smash Bros. Is all about a child playing with a bunch of plush toys, something that was confirmed by former Nintendo president Satoru Iwata. By Melee, the child is older, more established, and collects trophies of the characters rather than plush toys. Brawl is all about fighting against social taboos, that video games are for kids and not adults. That's why the final boss of the game's story mode is literally named Taboo and has body language of a closed-off adult. His mission throughout Subspace Emissary involves turning all the living characters back into trophies. In essence, killing the imagination and childlike spirit that involves bringing these characters to life. But in the end, the characters emerge victorious, figuratively and literally shattering the social taboos that were trying to contain them. Across all these games, there have been two pervasive figures, Master Hand and Crazy Hand. When Smash first came out in 1999, everyone expected the final battle to be against Ganon, or Mother Brain, or some other surprise Nintendo cameo like Bowser. So it was a shock that the final bout of the first ever classic mode was a giant white glove that just flicked you around. And it was even more surprising in Melee when Sakurai decided to double down on the character by creating his counterpart, Other White Glove. The games have been explicit about what these two characters represent, however. According to their trophies from the various games, Master Hand is the link between the real world and the imaginary battlefield. To quote Smash 4, he's the embodiment of the creative spirit with, according to Brawl, powers that border on absolute. Crazy Hand, meanwhile, is the impulsive and destructive force. Quoting his trophy from Melee, consumed with that hollow feeling which comes from destroying your own creations. And quite honestly, all this makes sense. We see Master Hand being the force that takes the plushies out of the toy box, and it's his snap of the fingers that transforms the table into the first ever battlefield of Smash 64. And let's face it, what kid hasn't fought his toys against the big baddie of his own hand?
Right, I've done it.
Nowadays haven't, since, you know, you could just play Fortnite. But I did it all the time. It was mostly hand versus Matchbox car.
Play with your toys.
Matchbox cars. Pew pew! Hand usually won. In my original theory, the hands both belong to Mr. Sakurai. He's the creative spirit behind these games and is quite literally the person who has absolute control over this world. And if Crazy Hand is all about destroying your own creations, well then, that destructive impulse must belong to Sakurai, the guy who created these things in the first place. But it was the final battle of Smash 4 that confirmed for me this relationship. In it, we see raging darkness burst out of Master Hand, which seemed to me to be a direct reflection of Sakurai's repressed frustrations with this series. He's been very public with each game after the original that he intends for it to be his last in the series, going so far as to say back in 2015 that he just might quit games altogether after how brutal Smash 4 was to work on. Quote, "It was very tough this time around. I doubt I'll be able to go on making games if it continues like this." And when I say brutal, I don't just mean long work hours, I mean physically and emotionally painful for him. As he himself admitted, quote again, "The reality and very unfortunate reality of this situation is that it's still a considerable problem. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm in a position where I can't use the mouse at this point, so I'm using the trackball. And as the creative director behind an action game, that's a real critical issue, unfortunately."
Yeah.
Remember, this was all back in 2015, yet here he is, 3 years later, still working on yet another installment of the same franchise. Sure, he's the...
Yeah, like, that was the thing that a lot of people who played Smash didn't understand, is that when you have a game developer like who really cares about the thing that he's creating, and is putting all kinds of love, putting a lot of love into something, it really hurts them when people are, not satisfied with that creation, even though it's massively planned and put out as carefully as it is, especially with this game now. Like this, hold on. This is by far the best Smash game I've ever played. And I'm saying that because I've played Melee. I've played Smash Bros. Brawl. I've played the one that was on the Wii U. I've played those games. And by far, this is the best story-driven one, even though the ending is confusing. But I enjoy the hell out of this game. I really do. And it sucks to know that Sakurai went through all of that turmoil, that emotional stress and pain, because he cared about the franchise so damn much. He wanted everyone to enjoy this franchise as much as they possibly could. And it sucks when people demand things over and over because there's a certain character that they want that's not technically in the game that they thought it was going to be in the game. Like, give the guy, some leeway, some credit, some type of like empathy. The man was literally in pain. Like, come on.
The master hand, but at a certain point there's anger and resentment with the thing that he's created under the surface, rage that he's still trapped by these games, darkness that we see manifested in the final battle of Smash 4, all until that rage subsides and he relents, just becoming a ball of sad acceptance at the end, waiting for it to be put out to pasture by the player, just like Sakurai himself in the next line of that interview. Quote a final time, but still, all things being said, I'm still 100% committed to the creation of Smash Brothers.
See?
And that's where things rested at the end of Smash 4. Getting clarity on the role of the two hands and Sakurai's relationship to the characters is essential, because it's where Smash Ultimate's story really begins. As the adventure starts, we see an army of master hands, led by the character Galeem, primed to attack our heroes on the cliff. Suddenly, we see one master hand unravel, and then several, and then all of them. Galeem transforms into a black hole, consumes the master hand energy, and blasts out that infamous light waves that destroy everyone but Kirby, who manages to escape. All the rest of the characters are captured and replicated as dark, heartless versions of themselves. So what's going on in that scene? Well, stick with me on this, but what if Galeem is symbolic of Nintendo?
Right.
Yes, the company Nintendo. Now, that might seem absurd, but think about it. If Master Hand is truly the embodiment of the creative spirit and has been Sakurai's stand-in character since Game 1, what is Nintendo other than an army of master hands? It's a company where a bunch of creative visionaries work together to produce games like Smash Ultimate, each hand a different person on the development team. And as anyone who's ever had a job can tell you, especially a creative job, the company can suck the life out of you. You feed your imagination, your creative spirit into its insatiable black hole. You give it your best work and it's not enough. There's always another project, another deadline, and all you get is a paycheck. That's just the sad truth of being a creator in a big company. It's the master hands giving themselves up to the black hole of Galeem. Their creative spirit and energy is feeding the entity that is Nintendo. And that, in turn, is the weird duality that we see with Galeem, which is sometimes a symbol of beautiful creativity, the angel, whose coloration just so happens to match Smash 4, by the way, and at other times is a soul-sucking, destructive black hole. Now look at what Galeem does to these characters. It captures them, preserves them, and then uses their bodies to create soulless evil doppelgangers. I mean, do I even need to translate that one for you? One of the things that all gamers worry about all the time are shameless cash grabs from game studios, diluting characters into shells of what they were just to sell more cheaply churned out games. And it's one of the things that Sakurai has always rebelled against in his professional career. I mentioned it in my previous theory, but it bears repeating here. He actively left HAL Laboratories when he felt like too many Kirby games were being churned out. And in 2013, he spoke out again against the practice. Quote, is there any industry that relies so much on reusing their old titles as much as video games? The glut of franchises and remakes is at an unnatural level. And you can ask how Sakurai could be against sequels when he's made so many versions of Super Smash Bros., but here's the kicker. Here's how Sakurai got roped into doing Brawl. He only decided to work on the project after Nintendo CEO Satoru Iwata publicly announced an upcoming sequel to the series at E3. In other words, the first time Sakurai heard about a sequel to his own game was at the same time as the general public.
Now that was the most fucked up thing that I've heard yet. That was the most fucked up thing. This man is the sole developer, the one who created the damn thing, and Nintendo just, without his own knowledge, oh, we're making another Smash Bros. Game. Without his consent, without his confirmation and whatnot, without his approval or saying so, they just flat out said in a social event that they're gonna make another Smash Bros. Game. Now, see, we didn't know this when Brawl came out. We didn't know this, but it's really fucked up to find out years later, you know.
Quote directly from the Iwata Asks interview on this subject.
It is even more
this is a
fucked
long
up.
series of quotes, but I guarantee it is totally worth listening. Quote from Iwata. All the employees from Nintendo of America that were involved with E3 at the time strongly wanted to announce a new Super Smash Bros. That would be compatible with Wi-Fi play. But at the time, we still hadn't discussed this thoroughly with HAL Laboratory yet, which shared the rights to Smash Bros. So, I announced this subject. Naturally, it was a splash of cold water for you. Quote from Sakurai. Absolutely. You can imagine my surprise when I was told by the others at the E3 show site that you had made the announcement out of the blue. Iwata. I even heard that the people around you at E3 were asking you whether or not you would develop the Smash Bros. Game. Sakurai. Yeah, it was rough. The fact that I had already quit HAL Laboratory made things a bit complicated. Iwata. So, during that E3, I invited you to my hotel room and told you what I was hoping to do. I had considered what I would do if you turned me down and decided that I would need to take the existing Smash Bros. Title, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and try to make it Wi-Fi capable. Maybe it's more appropriate to say that I realized we wouldn't be able to add any new elements to the game without your help. And I think I said as much when we discussed it at our hotel. It wasn't right, but you might even say I used it as a threat of sorts. Sakurai's response, it certainly had the desired impact. Let me translate an already translated interview. I will kill the good name of this franchise you created unless you renege on your personal creative passions and be a part of it. Man, I can't even believe this stuff exists out in public.
Me neither.
Like, this is an official interview on Nintendo's official site. Needless to say, Galeem seeming like a force for good, but ultimately being a dangerous entity that holds characters hostage and churns out carbon copies can make some level of sense when you look at Sakurai's perspective in all this.
Yeah, that was the most. I don't believe that. How do you put that on your official site of the interview that you threaten this man to destroy the franchise, destroy the thing that he created if he didn't want to do it, if he chose not to help you? If that's not the most blackmailing thing I've ever heard from a game company. And like I said before, like, we gotta give these kinds of game developers some type of respect and just appreciation. Cause hell, my favorite character, my favorite Pokemon is Raichu. And I don't bitch and complain when only Pikachu and Pichu are in the game. I don't complain about that. Even though I would love to have Raichu in the game. I don't whine and complain and you know, send death threats and do all this type of stuff when my certain character is not in the game. When you realize these kind of game developers, Sakurai alone is dealing with stuff like this, it's sad to hear. It's just really, really, really sad to hear. And it makes you wonder what kind of people were expecting good games from? Are they good people or are they bad people? Sakurai already is a good passionate person. But I can't say the same about these other game companies. The ones who do, or like pulling the strings, the CEOs and all that. I can't say they are, especially after seeing, hearing and seeing this. Jesus.
But the big twist in the adventure mode is when a new challenger approaches, Darkon and his army of crazy hands. If Galeem is Nintendo and its designers, then what is Darkon?
The fans.
I'm not 100% sure, and there's certainly much less symbolism around him, but I think it's the embodiment of toxic fandom.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Master
Toxic,
Hand
yeah.
is the one creating the scenarios, setting the stage, and Crazy Hand is the one who's smashing the figurines together in battle. It's the one that's breaking the rules, destroying this well-ordered world that's been created. Not in a bad way, just more in an uncontrolled, imaginative, chaotic way. Together, they represent the two sides of any game, video game or otherwise. The designer and the player, the creator and the fan. And so Darkon, an angry eye that leads an army of player hands, would be all the worst parts of fandom. Notice that Darkon doesn't need to absorb the hands on his side of the battlefield. It's because there's no unified group of players. They all still exist as individuals, but there is a collective negativity amongst them, which is embodied by Darkon. The expectation for their character to be in, for that character to be represented in the way that they think is right. This isn't the game that I demanded, or you cut out my favorite modes. And this is all reflected in Darkon's bad ending. When Darkon wins, it's critical to note that he doesn't destroy Galeem. Instead, he imprisons Galeem in chains. To me, this is symbolic of the fans holding Nintendo hostage, demanding that Nintendo only churn out what the fans demand they churn out in exactly the way the fans demand it. Which means that the struggle between the two is a battle of ownership. A company who thinks they own the characters versus all that balled up negativity around players who think they own the characters. With that context in mind, it is no wonder why the actual characters in the game seem like an afterthought in all these cutscenes. It's because they are an afterthought in all these cutscenes. That is the point. We have the creators and the corporation who controls them with their own goals and agendas on one side of the battlefield, and we have the players demanding more or demanding different things than what they're being delivered on the other. Meanwhile, the game and its characters, the actual heart and soul of what's being worked on, is the thing that suffers. It's the thing that gets ripped apart by the two parties and ultimately dies if either one entirely gets their way. The thing that both sides forget in this struggle is that the characters can't be owned. They're a fusion of how they're created and how the fans choose to love them. That's why the good ending only comes if both Darkon and Galeem are destroyed. In this ending, the spirits of all the characters collected throughout adventure mode are set free. Their souls are released and rise up to the heavens. They're no longer products to be fought over and are instead able to exist in their purest form, spirits, what they were always intended to be, characters for fun and imagination. That's why this ending feels so somber and bittersweet. It's because all of that has been forgotten in this struggle between corporation and consumer. And it's why, as Sakurai's final act, he's doing the one thing he can as his ultimate gesture of love to these characters. He's setting their spirits free. It's a weird moment in the story mode, but Master Hand and Crazy Hand turn on Darkon and Galeem to actually help the fighters. Crazy Hand creates a giant rift so that Master Hand can go on and defeat 50 false versions of the characters, in turn allowing the classic characters to make a final push against the two floating monsters. The player and the creator are coming together to help the characters combat the worst versions of themselves. Normal players fighting against fan toxicity, normal creators fighting against greedy corporate demands. And in turn, these two hands are allowing the characters to live on how they were always intended to be, as sources of joy and imagination. Both those hands are Sakurai. He's a fan and a creator. He loves these characters in this franchise, which is why he's been forced into this series so many times. But he can only protect them from these competing interests for so long, and so he did the only thing that he could do: set them free. This will be Sakurai's last game, I guarantee it. Regardless of whether there's truly another Smash game after this, this is where the series truly ends, as it literally and figuratively gets ready to change Master Hands. Now, obviously, Smash Ultimate is going to be one of the biggest gifts of this holiday season, but can I add one more thing to your shopping list that you might
But
not?
yeah, the rest is just his advertising, whatnot. But yeah, that's literally the best way to describe this game. That's literally the best way that you could possibly describe the story, the ending, and everything that Sakurai has been going through. And I could not agree more. Yeah, it's a theory, but it's the best one because Sakurai doesn't sugarcoat it. He stated in one of the presentations when he presented Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that this is going to be the last game that he makes, and if they make another one, he will not be in it. And if they do make another one, he hopes that they will keep the main core of what the game is. Just like Matt Pat just said, he's not a big fan of making the same game over and over again. Which is probably why a lot of these characters like Captain Falcon from F-Zero or Ness haven't gotten updated games just yet. Because some people are not big fans of making of doing remake games and the same games over and over. That could be a reason why. And that would make much more sense. But hey, what do I know? I'm just looking at things in a different way rather than just how everyone else is looking at this. So, there's that. Let me know what you guys think down below about this. Do you like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, or do you hate it? And if you do, what Smash Bros. Game do you like? If you even like them, do you even like Smash Bros. Games? I want to know in the comments down below. As such, this has been Master Ryo Sakurai. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all again next time. Peace.